Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you the insights you need. Today, we're plunging into a world that's, well, both notorious and honestly pretty fascinating. The sales strategies popularized by the Wolf of Wall Street. You know the image, right? The energy, the money, the undeniable sales success, but also all the controversy swirling around Jordan Belfort. His name is basically synonymous with high-octane selling, a really powerful force, for better or worse.
Yeah, definitely a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And look, we're not here to celebrate the dishonesty, not at all. Our mission today is to acknowledge the raw effectiveness of some of the mechanics that did work for Belfort's team, and then really contrast those sharply with what truly builds lasting success, wealth, and, genuine integrity in sales. We've got sources covering potent techniques, ethical guidelines, the psychology behind it all, and the very real fallout when you cross that line. So by the end of this deep dive, you should get a shortcut to understanding not just how to sell effectively, but how to do it ethically, building both your bank account and your reputation. So let's unpack this.
Sounds good, and it's true. Jordan Belfort is, well, let's face it, a controversial and dishonest figure. But you can't deny his ability to motivate teams and just generate massive deals. It was incredibly effective. One of our sources makes a really critical point here. The takeaway from that whole story shouldn't be his dishonesty. It should be the positives he brought to optimizing performance. It's about learning to separate the technique from the transgression.
That's a really key distinction. So, okay, what were these potent techniques? Where do we start pulling out those lessons?
Well, one of the cornerstones was this intense focus on training for success. He famously took people who were, uneducated, seemingly unqualified, and turned them into selling machines. How? Through proper, really comprehensive training. His straight-line persuasion system was taught rigorously. They used methods like role-playing on live customer calls. They had these meticulously crafted cold call scripts, polished elevator pitches.
Wow, really systematic.
Totally. And it wasn't just about what they were selling. It was the sheer power of investing deeply in your team's skills.
Yeah, that immediately highlights the potential for good, right? I mean, that process of developing talent, building systems, that can be incredibly powerful if you apply it ethically. So what came after that intense training?
All right. After the training, Belfort taught them they had to earn trust in the first 4 seconds.
4 seconds. That's it.
Yeah, he stressed that prospects judge you within that tiny window. So making a winning first impression, being seen as honest, likable, sharp, it was absolutely paramount. You had to laser in on their hot button issue almost instantly and show you were a credible solution. It's all about immediate relevance.
4 seconds. It's just incredible how fast we form opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, so once that initial connection was made, what then?
Well, beyond that initial spark, the next strategy was all about demonstrating value, competing on price. Almost always a losing game, according to this approach. Your edge, your control, it comes from your ability to clearly show the value of what you're offering. And that means really knowing your customer, asking those insightful questions, and positioning your product or service as the direct, undeniable solution to their pain points, showing how it fits their specific needs perfectly.
Okay, so we've got training, trust, value. What was the final piece Belfort used to kind of push a deal over the line?
That would be creating urgency. Urgency fosters action, right? People naturally hate the idea of missing out on something valuable. Belfort's fire sale examples are notorious. This is the last one left, or I have another buyer waiting,
Yeah, the classic high-pressure stuff.
Exactly. But here's where we need to bring in the ethical lens. The goal should be to create authentic urgency. That means helping prospects address maybe deeper needs they've been putting off, making them really understand the pain of continuing to ignore those needs, clarifying the real cost of not acting today. It's a powerful motivator when it actually stems from a genuine benefit for the client, not just manufactured pressure.
Okay, so building on those strategies, which, definitely have that ethical edge to them, Belfort laid out his straight-line selling method. It was in his book, Way of the Wolf, right? Designed to move people from doubt to certainty. What was that system all about?
Yeah, the straight-line method is essentially a systematic way to guide a conversation directly towards a sale, handling objections as you go. And it all starts, like we just said, with taking control in the first 4 seconds.
Back to the 4 seconds again.
Right back there. In that initial super brief window, you have to establish 3 critical things. 1, competence. You need to come across as smart, capable of solving their problem. 2, expertise. You don't just sound like an expert, you are one. You have in-depth knowledge. And 3, enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Genuinely believe in your product's value. And your tone, appearance, body language, it all plays into this.
It's fascinating how much weight is put on that initial, almost instant impression. I've seen research saying it can happen in like a fraction of a second. Others say maybe up to 30 seconds. But the core idea is the same. You get one shot.
Exactly. And you got to make it count. So after establishing that initial control, the next steps, building rapport, gathering information, and presenting, they kind of go hand in hand. Rapport isn't just small talk. It's creating an environment where prospects feel comfortable enough to actually answer your questions honestly. This allows for really purposeful questioning to identify their doubts or limitations, their worries, any beliefs holding them back, maybe concerns about money. Like, think of a car salesperson finding out about bad credit or no down payment, right? So they can then pitch the dealership's easy financing as the solution.
Right, tailoring the pitch based on what you uncover. And when those doubts or limitations came up, that's where this looping thing came in. Can you maybe walk us through how that works?
Sure. So imagine a customer says, look, I really like this software, but honestly, it's just too expensive for us right now. Instead of just defending the price immediately, you'd loop back. You might say something like, okay, so the price is the main thing holding you back. If we could genuinely address that concern, would this software solve that core problem you mentioned, like inefficient data management?
Ah, okay. Reframing it?
Exactly. Then you represent the benefits tied directly to their data management problem. You highlight the long-term value. You kind of reframe the investment. It's about asking for the sale, hearing the objection, addressing the underlying uncertainty by looping back to their need, and then gently moving them back towards certainty, towards solving their problem. It's a concept other sales trainers like Jeffrey Gitomer also talk about eliminating that perceived risk for the buyer.
Okay, interesting. Now let's get into the actual Wolf of Wall Street cold call script itself. I know it popped up on Reddit and places like The Follow-Up analyzed it. What did those scripts actually show about their tactics?
Yeah, those Stratton Oakmont scripts had a pretty distinct structure. You had your standard intro, then often a pattern interrupt, something like, look, I know you're busy, I'll get straight to the point. Designed to grab attention fast, lower their guard a bit.
Cut through the usual sales pitch noise.
Right. Then the script usually offered two paths. A yes response led to the next steps. But a no response wasn't the end. It was seen as a chance to educate the prospect more. And the ultimate goal was always a clear call to action, usually getting a meeting scheduled, not just sending info. Because, as the article pointed out, sending info often just meant you'd never hear back.
Makes sense. And didn't they have some kind of secret weapon phrase in there? Something like fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. It's subtle, but Chris Voss, the former FBI negotiator, he calls fair one of those powerful words in negotiation. It's a simple way to get agreement. Stratton also definitely used other common tactics, qualifying the prospect. I'm sure you're the kind of person who's creating scarcity. We only have a handful of spots. Even a bit of anti-selling. Look, I'm not trying to sell you anything today. To kind of disarm people.
Wow, okay, but here comes the big warning label, right?
Absolutely. This is the critical, crucial caveat from the follow-up article and other sources. Stratton Oakmont did very illegal things, and the advice is clear. You should not use this same sales script. This is where we draw that bright, uncrossable line between analyzing effective techniques and endorsing criminal behavior or unethical practices.
Okay, definitely heard. So, we've seen the raw, sometimes uncomfortably effective side of Belfort's methods. But now, let's pivot. How do we take that underlying understanding of persuasion, strip away the manipulation, and actually build sales success with integrity? I think this is where someone like psychologist Robert Cialdini and his 6 principles of persuasion come in handy, not as a toolkit for trickery, but for genuinely understanding human behavior.
Exactly. Cialdini's principles really shed light on why people say yes. And the key, like you said, is all about how they're applied. Let's quickly run through them with that ethical lens. First, reciprocity. People feel they need to return favors. Belfort might use a tiny bit of info to create a false obligation for a huge purchase. Ethically, you offer a genuinely valuable free consultation, say, as a real service, not a trap.
Okay. Makes sense?
Second, commitment and consistency. Once people commit, even in a small way, they're more likely to follow through. Belfort might push for rapid, small agreements to kind of box someone in. Ethically, you build a clear, logical path of small agreements that genuinely benefit the client, leading naturally towards a bigger, well-thought-out decision.
Right. Building step by step.
Third, social proof. We look to others when we're unsure. Manipulators invent fake testimonials. Ethically, you share authentic case studies, real customer reviews, things people can verify. Fourth, authority. We tend to follow credible experts.
Belfort's team projected authority, sometimes just through sheer force. Ethically, you build real expertise and share it transparently. You establish trust through actual knowledge.
Genuine credibility. Got it. Fifth, liking. We're just more persuaded by people we like. Now, Belfort trained his team to be charming, but often it felt, disingenuous. Ethically, you foster genuine rapport, real connections based on mutual respect and understanding. And sixth, scarcity, that fear of missing out. Belfort used fake deadlines, false limited offers. Ethically, something truly is limited, maybe a special offer, limited seats. You communicate that fact honestly. You let the prospect make an informed choice without undue pressure.
So it really is a double-edged sword, isn't it? Using these psychological triggers can empower people or it can manipulate them. That line seems incredibly fine sometimes and maybe comes down to just intent.
Precisely. That's the core of it. When used ethically, persuasion empowers everyone involved. It's about educating, building trust, building relationships, responsibly helping customers act by aligning with how we naturally behave, creating an informed yes. Manipulation, though, that exploits vulnerabilities, creating false urgency, faking authority or social proof with bogus testimonials, creating that false sense of obligation, giving something tiny to pressure a big purchase. The key difference is, are you genuinely trying to help or just trying to coerce?
Okay, so to make sure we stay firmly on that ethical side, our sources laid out some really solid best practices for selling with integrity. What are the main themes we should be focusing on there?
Yeah, we can kind of group them into three main areas, I think. First, prioritize the customer. This means going beyond just the basic industry rules. It means actively listening to their needs, which interestingly is cited as the top reason customers dislike salespeople feeling ignored.
I can believe that.
Right, so imagine like an older customer trying to explain their internet issues. Patiently listening, taking notes, making eye contact before jumping in with a solution that makes them feel heard. That builds trust. It also means putting their needs first by actually researching their preferences and honestly solving their real pain points.
That makes total sense. Okay, what's the second area?
Second area is build unwavering trust. This involves being transparent all the way through, answering questions directly, being upfront about pricing, clearly showing your product's true value. It also means creating real connections and, crucially, following through diligently on every promise you make. Trust is built on that consistency, on those genuine connections. That's where referrals come from, long-term success. And importantly, when it comes to competitors, show, don't just tell. Avoid trash talking. It's unethical, honestly, it just makes you look weak. Instead, clearly demonstrate how you offer superior value.
Good point. Okay, and the third key area for integrity.
The third is master the interaction with integrity. This means actively avoiding those aggressive or pushy techniques. One source said 61% of buyers dislike pushy salespeople. So that means no jumping the gun before you understand their needs, no enforcing fake deadlines, no rushing the sale, no just rattling off facts without engaging them, no getting defensive, and absolutely knowing when to respect a no. Focus on genuine, approachable interactions. Empower the customer to make their own decision. And always respect their boundaries. Practice empathy. Don't take rejection personally. It's part of the process.
It seems so clear that the sustainable path is integrity, but, what happens when companies or individuals do give in to the pressure and cross that ethical line?
Oh, the costs are huge, often devastating. Aggressive sales targets, especially if they're just unreasonable, can absolutely pressure employees into unethical or even illegal stuff. Misrepresentation, coercion, fraud. And that inevitably leads to serious legal trouble. Regulatory violations, lawsuits from employees, crippling fraud allegations. We've seen it again and again, right?
Yeah.
Financial firms hit with massive fines for misleading people, healthcare companies caught manipulating product claims, tech companies making unauthorized changes to contracts because they were pushing growth too hard. The long-term damage to a company's reputation is profound. Trust evaporates, you get negative press, your operational costs go way up. It's just not worth it.
And of course, the classic example of crossing that line was the pump and dump scheme that Stratton Oakmont was so famous for. Can you just quickly explain what that actually is?
Yeah, a pump and dump is a specific type of securities fraud. Basically, it involves artificially inflating the price of a stock that the fraudsters already own, usually through false or misleading positive statements. That's the pump. Then, they sell out their cheaply bought shares at that artificially high price that's the dump. Once they dump their shares, the price just collapses, leaving all the other investors holding basically worthless stock and facing huge losses.
So they create fake hype to cash out.
Exactly. And Jordan Belfort himself was criminally convicted for doing exactly this with Stratton Oakmont, artificially inflating stock prices with lies and fraudulent information. And sadly, these tactics haven't gone away. They happen today with cryptocurrencies, often spread through spam emails or social media hype campaigns.
Ugh. Okay, so if the dangers of unethical selling are so stark, how do we actually build wealth and achieve that financial freedom in sales the right way?
Well, Ian Cognac, from one of our sources, makes a pretty bold claim. He says, sales is the best profession to build wealth and create financial freedom. And his definition of financial freedom is really compelling. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, without having to worry about money.
That's the dream for a lot of people.
It really is. And he shares his own story, which is pretty powerful. Started with nothing, literally sold copy machines door to door, saved enough to bring a loved one to the US, and eventually retired at 42. It just highlights the incredible power of having a really strong why.
That's genuinely inspiring. So, okay, beyond having that strong why, what are Cognac's key principles for building wealth ethically in sales?
He breaks it down into a few really powerful, actionable steps. First, start with your why and raise your standards. You need to know exactly how much money you need and why. Dream big, visualize it, like Napoleon Hill taught in Think and Grow Rich. That ignites the drive to actually become the person who can achieve that vision through daily changes. Second, create a detailed sales and financial plan. Understand your commission structure inside out. Map out exactly how many sales you need to hit your desired income. He says for top performers, the quota is never the real target, it's always the income goal.
Shifting focus from the company target to your personal financial target.
Precisely. Third, commit to continuous self-improvement and smart financial habits. You know that Jim Rohn quote, if you work hard on your job, you make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you will make a fortune. Constantly learning, growing, and finally, maybe the toughest one, always live below your current income and invest consistently. This fights lifestyle creep, where your spending just keeps rising with your income. It's surprising, but one source noted that like 50% of people making over $250,000 a year still live paycheck to paycheck because of this creep. Investing consistently, maybe in real estate or index funds, that's the real accelerator.
That's a very practical, actionable blueprint. And thinking about organizations, how do they balance that ambition for growth with the absolute need for compliance and ethics?
Yeah, for companies, it really boils down to building a culture of integrity from the top down. This means integrating compliance right into performance metrics. So it's not just some separate HR thing. It means regular, comprehensive compliance training that actually sticks, goes beyond just ticking boxes. Most importantly, leadership has to actively prioritize and model ethical behavior, not just, pay lip service to it. And finally, having robust monitoring systems in place to catch potential non-compliance early. That way, you can pursue growth without stumbling into those legal minefields.
Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from the raw, ethically murky techniques of Jordan Belfort through the vital principles of ethical persuasion, looked at the serious risks of malpractice, and landed on a clear, actionable path towards genuine wealth and success with integrity.
Yeah, and sales really is an incredibly powerful profession. It offers just immense potential for financial freedom, for personal growth. But the crucial difference, the thing that separates those short-term destructive gains from long-term fulfilling wealth, it truly lies in how you wield that power. Hopefully you can use the insights from this deep dive to apply effective strategies, but always with that strong ethical foundation. Remember, things like transparency, active listening, respecting boundaries, they aren't just nice to haves or good for your customers. They're fundamentally good for your career, your reputation, and ultimately your life.
Well said. And as you reflect on all this, here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. If the ultimate goal in sales is to create certainty for the buyer, certainty for the seller, what foundational certainty must you first cultivate within yourself to truly sell with integrity and achieve that lasting financial freedom?